people to log on. We're going to talk tonight about empathy. We're going to discuss why empathy is important, why you should have more empathy, and why you should be concerned if you don't have empathy. So again, this is Dr. Stephen Walker. We are broadcasting live onto Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. So I'm just going to let a few seconds go by for people to log on. Again, the conversation we're having tonight is about empathy. Okay? So let's get started. Now, remember, this is about you all engaging with me. If you have a question, if you have a comment, do not hesitate to ask it. We need more engagement like that, okay? Empathy. What is empathy? What isn't empathy? So that's what we're talking about today. Once again, looks like we're having a little technical glitch where we're not getting the live streaming questions. So anyway, we're going to proceed and talk about empathy and what it is and what it isn't. I'll try to get the questions from another vantage point. So why should we be concerned about what empathy is? Why should we be concerned what empathy isn't? So a lot of people don't really understand what empathy is. A lot of people think empathy is just feeling for another person. Now that's part of it, but hey, Severina, thanks for joining. Empathy is the process of trying to feel for another person. Now, why is that important? Well, let's talk a little bit about empathy as a concept in general. People in the mental health field, myself included, you got to think of empathy like this. If we live in a society where people don't care about each other, what kind of society is that going to be? The concerning thing for me as somebody in the mental health field is that people seem to think not caring is cool, not caring is good. You see that all over social media. You see people all the time saying, "Oh, I don't have two F's to give, and I don't give an F about this, and I don't give an F about that," and they actually like pride themselves on saying things like, "I don't care, I don't care." Well, let me tell you something about not caring, okay? Not caring is not healthy, all right? Not caring, when you don't care. Hey, Judy, how are you? Thanks for joining. Again, remember, tonight's topic is empathy, but anyone can take me wherever they want to go with whatever they're struggling with. Don't hesitate to ask a question. Why is our society moving towards not caring? I have no idea, because that is the most concerning thing that you can have as a culture, is a bunch of people living together on a rock, hurtling through space with limited amounts of resources, moving in a direction where we don't care about each other. We should be concerned about the epidemic of seemingly it being cool not to care, like we're concerned about the AIDS epidemic or COVID-19 or whatever it can be. Because hey, Angie, how are you? What I can guarantee you is hey, Donna, thank you for joining. Please ask a question. We're talking about empathy, but anybody can use this time to talk about whatever they want. I like to come in with a topic and then you guys take me wherever you want to go. But the more we go towards not caring, the more we are going to move into more dangerous aspects in our society. Let me explain to you why. Think about it in practical terms. You're about to move into a neighborhood. Okay, you're moving. You have two neighborhoods to choose from. One neighborhood is a neighborhood of people who don't care about each other. Literally, they don't care. That's what you go into it knowing, my neighbors do not care about me. Or you have the choice of moving into a neighborhood where people do care. Which one are you going to choose? Some people might say, well, if people don't care about each other, they'll leave each other alone. Sure, but you know what else they'll do? Don't look for help if you need it. So we have to question, why don't people care? What prevents people from empathizing with each other? And that's the crux of the issue. The main thing that prevents people from caring about each other is being hurt, being let down, being abused, having your trust in somebody violated. That is one of the main things that prevents people from being empathetic. They figure, hey, I was empathetic once. I didn't care. People didn't care about me, so I'm not going to care about them. That is why I'm doing these broadcasts, because people need to work on their issues. People need to work on what's ailing them, what's hurting them. We've had great engagement with viewers on this. We've had people logging on from Facebook, from YouTube, from Twitter. We need people moving out of shame of having issues to, it's okay to have issues because I'm working on them. Hey, Janie, how are you? I feel you. Spent Friday, I know. But we need to feel for each other more. This is exactly why we have the culture we have, what we're moving into, a culture of people who seem to pride themselves as if it's okay to not care. There are books being written, how the subtle art of not giving a blank. Now, granted, the book isn't about it's more about choosing what you give an F about. But the problem with that title is people see it and they don't read the book and they figure, oh, great, I'm not giving an F is good. Not caring is associated with multiple mental illnesses. Narcissism for one, antisocial personality disorder for another one, and it goes on and on. Not having empathy for each other is rooted in emotional and psychological trauma or pain. Now, so that takes me into one of the reasons why people don't empathize, because they have this unresolved pain in them that they're not dealing with. They have these wounds from the past that somebody transgressed against them, or somebody did something to them that they didn't like. And that is what is preventing a majority of people from caring about each other. Because what do? They immediately assume, well, you know what? It's going to happen again. Why should I care? Because I am going to get hurt again. And that is why people like me do the work we're doing, because we are trying to help people heal those emotional wounds and get into a situation where they can start caring again about each other. So let's talk about empathy in a relationship. And again, remember, please ask a question. This is about developing more empathy. But if somebody is out there, if you're watching, if you're struggling with something, please ask a question. It doesn't have to be about empathy. It can be about anything else. But when you're in a relationship, let's say you've been married for a while, and there's been a buildup of negativity, kind of like a buildup of plaque or a buildup of dirt on your floor. If it's not cleaned, if it's not dealt with, it builds up and builds up. And most relationships have a built-up of pain, a buildup of negativity. Pam, hi Pam. Pam's commenting, I just had a boyfriend leave me that didn't seem to care. Why do I feel so bad? I'll get to that in a second. Thanks for the question, Pam. Please ask the questions, people. I am not trying to be another one of these YouTube people who go on for 30 or 40 minutes with some topic and then you just listen. This is not how people make changes, okay? It's good that you're looking at those and reading and all that. This is a process of engagement. This is why we do what we do, so you can talk things out. Okay, I'll get to you in a minute, Pam. Thank you. So most relationships have a buildup of negativity and it's not processed. So couples get into this situation where they're like, and I was working with a couple today, well, why should I empathize for him? He's not empathizing for me. He's not owning the pain he's given me, or she's not owning the pain. And it's a very real subject, but the problem is when you're stuck in that dynamic, when you're stuck in the dynamic of tit for tat, I'm not going to do it if she's not doing it. I'm not going to do it if he's going to do it. Nothing changes. The key thing about empathy is it's not about feeling for the person. You're never, I was telling some people I was working with today that after 20 odd years, I can feel pretty well for people. Like I'm very good. It always blows my wife away with, prior to COVID, we would go out and I would interact with somebody and within 30 seconds in a minute, I can feel what's going on with them. Not because I'm some psychic. It's just because when you do this, you tune into people. You're empathetic. You feel people. But that takes a lot of time. If you need to develop empathy, your main goal should be to try to make the other person feel that you're trying to feel for them. That's the key. Don't worry about feeling for them. Have them feel that you're trying to feel for them. Now, why is that important? Well, because an interesting thing happens with empathy. When a person feels that you're trying to feel for them, it opens them up. They start trying to help you feel for them. I know it's a bizarre thing, but you can watch it happen in simple ways. Now, if you struggle with empathy, before I'm going to go into some, little things you can do to develop your empathy skills. But if you struggle with being empathetic for people, you got to own that, people. You got to own that like, oh man, I walked up a flight of stairs and I have trouble breathing. You got to you got to own that like that. Like that should be a concern to you. Why don't I feel more for people? Why don't I feel more for people? Now, there are many reasons for that. I talked about one before, past pain, past hurt. But if you can generally identify that you don't feel for people, then you should be concerned about that. Okay? Because that is an indication of some mental illness. Now, remember, when we talk about mental illness, it's on a spectrum. It's not you have it or you don't. It's everyone has a degree of mental illness, myself included. Everybody. Okay? So if you can identify that, I don't know, man, I just don't feel, you should be concerned about that. Like if someone told you you got cancer, you got a malignant tumor on your spine, that should be a red flag for you because that is a degree of mental illness that you're not dealing with. Okay? Not caring about people, not caring about each other is not healthy. Think of the world we would have if all of a sudden something happened and the ability to care for each other was gone. We would have pure chaos. We would be back to like a Mad Max jungle type of society. Why do I get worked up about these things? Because they're so friggin' important. People think, why do we have the world we have? Because of little things that people aren't working on, like being proud of caring about each other, proud of feeling for other people. Thanks, Severine. I'll get to that I'll get to your questions in a second. Please keep them coming. Remember, you can ask a question about anything you want. It does not have to be about empathy, okay? But we would have we would have a Mad Max, like I said before, a Mad Max world where people don't just give a crap about each other. We need to feel for each other more, people. Now, let's talk about culturally. There's a thing called, and you guys have heard me talk about it, conditioning. Conditioning is how we were raised and, why do I do what I do? That's looking into that. But there's another thing called cultural conditioning. And I am an American. I love this country. I love everything it stands for. Now, well, not everything it stands for, but you know what I mean. I'm not an anti-American person. But one of the most devastating things about cultural conditioning that affects us as a whole? Individualism. Individualism is taken way too far. There's a pathological individualism that I see happening in this country, and people aren't dealing with it. They think that individualism is so great, and individualism is one of the main causes of lack of empathy. Think about it. Most other cultures around the world, most, not all, but most, are what are called collectivistic. We are individualistic. Collectivistic is, I see myself as part of a whole. I feel responsible for my tribe, my cult, my group, my whatever. They feel a sense of connection with each other. That is collectivism. Now, I'm not saying that America is bad and blah, 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 but individualism, I call it pathological individualism, is exactly what's feeding the flames of empathy because people think, I don't need nobody. I don't need nobody. Remember, for about 6 years ago, Obama came out and said something like, I am a Republican, people. I have beliefs both on Republican and Democrat. So no one's going to pigeonhole me into a liberal or a conservative. I have both. But Obama said something interesting that drew the ire of so many people. You didn't make it to where you're at on your own. And people freaked out. But then if you really stop and think about it, who has made it to where they are by themselves? That's not that. Sure, you can take that too far. There's nothing wrong with needing help from each other. Nothing. There's absolutely nothing wrong. Great, Arthur. Thank you. Everyone has a degree of mental illness. Wow, I believe it. Great. I'm going to get to these questions, guys. Please keep them coming in. We need to care about each other more. I'm not talking about, oh, I care so much and I can't get on with my life and all. That's too much empathy. We need to stop and care about each other. And I'm going to get to the questions, but I want to give you guys a couple of key things you can do to be more empathetic. When you're listening to somebody, reflect back to them what you heard them say. That's it. Most people listen like we hear it all the time. They listen to argue. They're formulating their response. So here's an easy way for you to develop some empathy skills. Someone's talking about a problem and they're like, and instead of you saying, oh yeah, I have the same issue and you know what, and then making it about you, wow, that must be difficult for you. What's that like? What's that feel like? Or take something they said and reflect it back to them. Wow, that must be hard that, your boyfriend's cheating on you. Wow, that. Reflect back what they're saying, because then they're going to feel heard. Just like if you were saying something, you'd like it. In the moment when somebody is talking to you, try to ask yourself, what would that feel like if it was me? What would that feel like if I was in that person's shoes? What would it feel like? And then let the person know you're trying to feel for them, not sympathize. You're trying to feel for them like, wow, if that was me, I'd be pretty upset. I hear what you're saying. This is what you begin to do empathy on. You begin to let people feel what you're feeling. Okay? So I'll come back to this. I want to get to a couple questions because, again, remember, this is not about me ranting about a topic and getting thousands of views and I'm the big... No, this is about you all engaging with me. So please, if you're watching this, like I always say, please share this into your groups, into your Facebook pages, into your wherever. If you're watching this on like Arthur is on YouTube, be proud of the fact that you're working on yourself. Okay? So I'll get to you, Arthur, in a sec. Thanks for the comment. Pam is saying, I just had a boyfriend leave me that didn't seem to care. Why do I feel so bad? Great question. Why do you feel so bad? Because you probably loved him. You probably liked having him around. You missed the companionship. Remember, in relationship, there's always kind of love-hate. And it may not be hate, but there's love conflict. So maybe he was good at giving you what's called an intermittent reward schedule, meaning that he would really be into you and then he would pull back. And then you didn't know when he was going to stop caring about you, so you gave more and more and more. I don't know, Pam. Maybe growing up, you had a dad like that. Maybe you haven't looked at, why do I stay in relationships with people who treat me poorly? It's not your fault. I'm not saying that. I had a client I was working with today who was telling me that she had a lunch or something with a friend and she had just gotten out of a emotionally and physically abusive relationship. And instead of the friend empathizing with her, she gave her crap. Like, you got psychology degrees. Why didn't you know this was happening? Why didn't you get out? Almost like blaming and bashing the victim. Guys, I beg you, if you're watching this live or at another time, if anyone's ever venting to you about being in an abusive relationship, you were abusing them by saying crap like that. You're abusing them by saying, you brought this upon yourself. You should have known better. Why didn't you get out of it? Those are all abusive statements that are going to make the person feel worse about themselves. Okay? I'll say this again. I posted this years ago. Abuse victims do not allow themselves to be abused. Abusers allow themselves to be abusers. Okay? Abusers allow themselves to be abusers. Okay? Telling an abuse victim you're allowing the abuse, you might as well just punch them in the head. Okay? So, Pam, you got to look into why you're staying in relationships with people who you feel don't care about you. Maybe you've got some self-esteem issues, and if you want to follow up, we can talk more about it a little bit more if you follow up. So that's what I would say to myself. Why do I feel so bad about missing this person? It's okay that I miss this person. Okay? It's okay that I miss this person. There's nothing wrong with me for missing this person. Nothing. You're a human being. Most of us like intimacy, feeling like somebody cares about us. Okay? There's nothing wrong with missing a person. Not at all. So please don't think that there's anything wrong with you for missing him. Nothing. There are lots of reasons why we miss people. So thank you for that comment. But you feel bad probably because you miss him. And you got to look a little bit at those issues that cause you to be with somebody who is treating you poorly. You've really got to, Pam, because that's something that you learn. That's learned behavior. That it's okay that Pam gets treated poorly, or Pam always gets treated poorly. And then you develop a cycle where people actually think they attract people like that. I mean, maybe, but odds are there's so many narcissistic type of people on this planet where they don't really care. We're just surrounded by them. So if you want to blame yourself for attracting them, that's up to you. I don't recommend it, but you got to look at why you've stayed in the relationship so long. So thank you for the question. Severina, I used to care about the father of my kids. I do honestly give a F what happens to him or any of his family. I don't feel anything. I feel you, Severina. I do. And, when I say, not giving an F, I'm not talking necessarily about people who have hurt you. That is a different level. Okay. I'm talking about just in general, the idea that I don't give an F and I'm proud of the fact that I don't care and all that. That your particular situation is it's probably better for you not to give an F because he's caused you so much pain and he's caused you to so much negativity in your life that maybe not giving an F is your way of protecting yourself. And you have every right in the world to do that. And when you say I don't feel anything, you mean you don't feel anything for him, or you don't feel anything in general. And if you are, okay, Pam is following up saying I was a victim of abuse twice. Okay, so that is obviously going to put Pam into a cycle in her mind where she thinks and expects that. But Pam, you got to work on those emotional wounds, okay? You can't be ashamed of them. You can't be ashamed of them, and you can't think you deserve the abuse and you brought it upon yourself. You've got to work on what is causing you. It's like an infection, that untreated infection that you have to work on. It's not your fault you were abused, okay? But you got to look into that cycle and you got to slowly heal that in order to break that cycle. And the fact that you're talking about it openly tonight, Pam, is a great first step. So thank you for that. Back to Severina. So Severina, I hear you. And it's probably best for you to protect yourself by maybe not giving an F, by saying that, I am going to just protect myself from this person who has caused me a lot of pain and not do that. I would bet from, getting sort of to know you on these broadcasts, you probably do care about him, but when you care about him, that puts you in conflict. Like, how the heck can I care about somebody who has caused me so much pain? Or maybe you're so angry at him, which you have every right in the world to be if you've been abused. But monitor that so maybe it doesn't bleed into other aspects of your life. And please, Severina, there are a lot of good men out there. There are a lot of people out there who are not abusers. There are a lot of men who do care. Try not to put us all into one category. I know it's easy to do, especially when you've been hurt repeatedly, but don't give up on trying to first off heal your own emotional wounds, but don't give up on trying to find love and trying to find somebody who can meet your emotional needs. Okay, so thank you for the comment. Back to Arthur from YouTube. Everyone has a degree of mental illness. Wow, I believe it. Why do you believe it, Arthur? Follow up with that. You believe it because you probably know, like I've been saying ever since I started this a few weeks ago, name one person who doesn't have issues. Name one person you know who doesn't have a degree of mental illness, myself included. I have a degree. I'm working on it. I'm not ashamed of it. I try to manage it on a daily basis. So there's nothing wrong with having a degree of mental illness. The only thing wrong about that is not working on it. Okay? Not working on it. And the reason I'm, passionate about this, people, is because we could have a totally different world. We could have a totally different world if people were just okay with, I went through some crap growing up, or I've been abused twice, and I'm not ashamed of it. I didn't deserve it, and I'm going to work on it. We'd have a totally different world if people were developing more empathy for each other and getting to the root of why they don't want to feel for each other. So yeah, Arthur, everyone has a degree of mental illness. Everyone. Okay. Some people are way on the other side of mental illness where they need medication, maybe being institutionalized. They can't go out of the house. Other people are more on the degree where they have, anger issues, frustration. They're depressed, they're anxious, whatever it may be. There's always a degree of mental illness in all of us. Why? Because there's no perfect parenting. There are no perfect people. We're absorbing a lot of crap as kids that we had no idea we were absorbing. Okay? And it's not about blaming mommy and daddy. It's about identifying, oh, okay, so it's not that I'm a racist. It's I learned to be a racist. I learned that. So let me see if maybe I can learn a new way of thinking, a new way of looking at things. And I've said this before. I firmly believe you give me any hardcore racist, any somebody with extreme prejudices, black people hating white people hating black people. If that person hating the other person wants to make a change, they want to look at their belief system, they can absolutely make a change. They can absolutely change that. 100%. Now, will they become MLKs or Gandhis or things like that? I don't know. Maybe, probably not. But the degree of their racism can come down because they're motivated to work on it. Okay? So, Arthur, I hope you are working on your degree of mental illness. Okay? Whatever that may be. Okay. Thanks, Arthur. Donna. Donna's saying, how do I deal with repeated rejection and abandonment from my mother? She passed now, and I know this is my biggest issue. So when you say, how do I deal with repeated rejection and abandonment of my mother, but she's passed away? Well, that's a little difficult because you can't talk to her about it. You can't get it out. So what I would recommend for you is maybe there's an exercise that classic psychoanalysis people do. It's called the empty chair. And now that I think about it, I guess it is psychoanalysis. But anyway, or is more psychodynamic. Psychoanalysis is when you're analyzing things and looking into it. Psychodynamic is you're analyzing things, but you're also looking at how they started. So it's kind of the same thing. But anyway, it's called the empty chair. The empty chair is where you're working with somebody and you imagine the person who's hurt you is in that chair and you're saying what you would like to say to them. That's an interesting exercise, Donna. But what I would ask you is, when you say this is my biggest issue, what are you talking about? So you're talking about this is your biggest issue because you feel guilt, or you're hating her, you feel angry at her, and that's still in you. So I would need just a little bit more info as far as when you say this is my biggest issue, what do you mean by your biggest issue? How is that expressing itself in you when you say your biggest issue? So what I'm gonna just go with what I think it may be, meaning that the rejection and abandonment from your mom has caused you to expect rejection and abandonment from other people. That could be one. Or the rejection and abandonment that you went through with your mom caused you to feel low, have low self-esteem about yourself, like that you are not lovable, that you don't deserve love, or that everyone's going to always reject you or abandon you. So what I would recommend for you, Donna, if you haven't done it already, is you got to work on that. you got to work on what is going on in you that is causing you to be in pain. I'm just looking to see if Donna is responding. So until you respond, I'm going to go with the fact that, or the idea that repeated rejection and abandonment from your mom has caused you to feel unlovable, has caused you to feel like no one's ever going to love me and what's the point and I can't trust anybody. So in that situation, I would recommend that you spend a little time disputing that conditioning, meaning getting into it like, well, wait a minute. Why is my mom's rejecting and abandoning me, causing me to feel unloved? Now, you're talking about like, and people like to make fun of people who say they don't feel they got enough love. Oh, you didn't get enough love. Oh, no one held you. And that is it's just so insensitive to say that to somebody, because not getting enough love or getting, again, what I call an intermittent reward cycle when it comes to love is very destructive to human beings. So maybe the fact that you got rejected and abandoned a lot by your mom has caused you to have low self-esteem. You got to look at that rejection and abandonment like an infection inside of you, Donna. Okay. You got to look at it like, all right, this is messing with my mind, because let me think about this for a second. So if my mom rejected and abandoned me a lot, then that's going to cause me to feel like she rejected me because of me. She rejected me because I'm unlovable. Now, wait a minute. Why is her rejecting me make me unlovable? That sounds something like within her, because I'm telling you, any parent who rejects a child, that's on them. Okay, that is on them. I don't care what kind of monster that kid is or whatever. That is incumbent upon you to deal with you rejecting this child, because what Donna is talking about is something that plagues a lot of people. Donna is talking about feelings of abandonment and rejection that are going to affect her relationship. And not only with other people, it's going to affect your relationship with Donna. Because I'm guessing, Donna, that you don't have a very good relationship with yourself. I'm guessing that you feel pretty low about yourself, pretty bad about yourself because of that rejection. I have a client that I'm working with that had some of that when this client was a child. The person was adopted, and the biological parents couldn't have kids, so they adopted this person. The parents then had a child, which happens a lot, and then this person got rejected. And this person struggles with, you notice I'm not saying it's a man or a woman, but this person struggles with low self-esteem. They feel that they're unlovable. They feel like they're an ugly monster. And this is what these types of intermittent reward cycles do to people, okay? They cause people to feel as though they are not worthy of love. They feel as though there's something wrong with them. And this is the problem that most people struggle with, is they feel that they are not worthy of love. Okay? So, I hope that helped. I don't know what's going on with me not getting follow-ups, but so Donna, let me know what your thoughts are about that, and I'll move on to another question and see if you come in. Angie's saying, in my marriage, I feel mostly fear. You know, Angie, you got to get into that. You got to look at what is going on within you that is causing you to feel fear. Why are you feeling so much fear? What is going on in your what are you afraid of? If there's been abuse, Angie has talked a lot before about things that are going on in her marriage, and she's got a lot of forces that are acting upon her that, you know, are causing her to feel certain things. But, you know, if I was working with you, Angie, I would try to expose you to some of that fear. Honestly, I know that sounds sadistic, but it's not. It's called exposure therapy, where you therapeutically expose somebody to what they're afraid of in order to build up resistance and tolerance. but you've got to work on some of that fear. What is causing you to feel that fear? If he has done something that he is not owning, you guys got to talk that out. You guys got to get into a place where you can talk about what's happening in the marriage. If you are afraid of your own safety, then Angie, you got to maybe get some legal actions going to protect yourself. I know sometimes that's a scary subject because people think that, oh my God, if I file a restraining order, that's going to make him more mad. And it does happen. So women who are in Angie's situation need a lot of empathy, people. They need a lot of empathy. It's not so easy to say, well, wash that man right out of your hair, or, Angie, you're letting yourself be abused, or you're letting yourself stay in fear. It's not that easy, people. Angie knows firsthand how difficult it is to get out of these situations. This isn't a movie where you can just pack your bags and go. You've got multiple different reasons. So I feel for you, Angie. You got to work on some of that fear. Okay? Hey, Janie, I work at a hospital and take care of people all night. I love my job, but when I come home, I just feel overwhelmed with emotions and cry because I need a release. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. If you're an empathetic person and you're working with a lot of people who are in a lot of pain, there's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely. Crying is emoting. The scientists don't even know why we cry. Why do when we cry, tears come out? We don't know that. I mean, we know the mechanism, but why is stuff coming out of us? Because crying is a good release. So Janie, what I would encourage you to do is be okay with those emotions, be okay with crying, and then soothe yourself. Give yourself some credit for the wonderful work you're doing at the hospital. Give yourself some credit for the fact that you are helping people heal. Part of what primary care providers are very good at is caring about other people, encouraging other people, soothing other people, but they don't know how to do it to themselves. Janie needs to work on saying nice things to Janie, being proud of the fact that she's a care provider, soothing yourself, having self-empathy. And I know that obviously is, a contradiction in terms, but yeah, feeling for yourself, being supportive of yourself, working on the relationship with Janie. And Janie knows what I mean by that. Okay. So Jamie, I don't know what Jamie's talking about here. This is a good topic though. Okay, great. Sounds like my ex-husband. I was a victim of abuse. Okay, well, I guess Jamie must be talking to somebody else because I don't really know what you mean by that selfishness. So actually validating people's feelings is selfishness. I don't know if that's what you mean. Maybe you can follow up, but it's not selfish. Validating other people's feelings is empathy. Validating your own feelings is also important. Great, Pam is empathizing with Janie. Great. Janie, you need to empathize with Janie. Clara, thank you for joining me on Facebook. Clara, you are right, Dr. Walker. We do need each other. The only times we don't is when people in our lives are toxic. Absolutely. Absolutely. Like I was saying earlier, we were talking about, Severina was talking about not feeling much for her ex and because he's causing it. Absolutely. And toxicity in a relationship will definitely erode how you feel for somebody. But we can't let it erode how we feel about ourselves. Okay, we have to work on not allowing ourselves to victimize ourselves. So yes, Clara, you're absolutely right. We need to say to ourselves, I can live without this toxic person. A lot of times people don't do that. A lot of times people have low self-esteem, so they figure, well, better the devil you know than the devil you don't. So we stay in these relationships because we figure, maybe I won't get anybody else to love me, or maybe I won't be able to find somebody else to fill that void, or whatever it may be. That's low self-esteem that needs to be dealt with. You need to question that. You need to be able to say to yourself, wait a minute, what is going on? Why am I treating myself like that? So absolutely, yes, you're absolutely right, is when we're involved with toxic people. So let me see if there are any other questions here. Chun is saying learned traits. Absolutely. Conditioning is learned behavior. Conditioning is learned behavior. Okay. It's something that we need to address. All right. So Severina's following up saying something inside of me just dies after all the times he used our kids to look good and with someone new or to other people. The last time he did not take care of our daughter for a couple of hours because he was with somebody. When I confronted him that day in that moment, I feel that something just died for good and I feel great. Now I feel more capable of being firm on my decisions when it comes to her and kids in my life. Absolutely. Beautiful. So it sounds like you got what you needed to begin the letting go process. Now people, oh, just let it go and let it go like it's magically let go. No, letting go is a process of letting go. Okay. And by letting go, it's not going to be like, I'm just letting go of everything and boom, I'm magically healed. But it sounds like Severina got what she needs. And it's great, Severina, as you type this stuff out. I hope that, that's therapeutic for you too, to be able to just say, exactly what you're feeling in a safe environment. And you can hear yourself say it and say, yeah. And Severina, I hope you can feel yourself healing through this process of just getting in touch with how you're feeling and working on it. Remember, Severina's relationship with Severina has to be the number one relationship in her life, even sometimes before your kids. And I don't mean neglecting your kids, but caring for little Severina inside. So I'm glad you're getting what you need and helping yourself heal. Shem, hey Shem, what's up? You're new here. Thank you for coming. I was born at 25 weeks. I spent 3 months in the hospital, mainly untouched as my body healed, scars, massive bruising. Wow. Later, my parents exhibit cluster B behaviors. Wow, that's not easy. How much of my adult psyche is still impacted by birth circumstances versus well-intentioned? They say parenting, attachment theory. Dude, gosh, I don't know if you're a dude or a dudette, but that's a great question. Great question and a deep question. I could do a whole hour just on that question. So attachment theory, those of you who don't know, attachment theory is just very broadly put, without this getting too technical because we don't have a lot of time, but attachment theory is a theory of how we form attachments. How we form attachments. So what Shem is saying is because Shem, I'm just going to assume you're a guy, so I apologize. Male, thank you. Okay, so Shem is saying that he was born at 25 weeks, so he was, in probably a neonatal ICU unit and NICU, for those of you who know what I'm talking about. So, and in that he was sterile and people weren't touching him and he was in pain and scars and bruising. How much of my adult psyche is still impacted by birth circumstances? It's not versus well-intentioned parenting, Shem. It's and don't put it in conflict with each other. It's both. They can learn to live together. Yes, your psyche is probably affected by some of that. Now, to what degree, you got to get into it. I don't know if you've ever done any work with somebody like me or where you can go back and feel some of those feelings of attachment issues. But what I would recommend for you, man, is you've got to get into those feelings in an environment where you can talk that out, meaning that you've got to get in a situation just that I'd be curious how just writing that. And I don't know, please follow up if you're, still on. I don't know if you've done any work on any of that, but a lot of that early birth pain can be dealt with the more you accept it. I don't know, and I know this may sound like a strange thing if you've never heard it, but I don't know what your relationship to those memories and to that trauma is. I don't know if you've developed kind of a negative relationship with it, like you hate it, like you wish it wasn't part of you and all of that. But you've got to get into a situation where you're able to talk some of that stuff out, okay? Where you're able to say, okay, look, it's okay that I went through this as a kid, but I've got to look at how this is affecting my attachment. So if I was working with you, that would be something I would look at. I'd be like, all right, Shem, well, let's talk about it. How do you think it's still affecting you? How do you... Okay, so Shem is saying therapy, folks, so he has been in therapy. Excellent, bro. You should be proud of that. Therapy focused on other higher priority issues, so a new layer of time. Okay, but Shem, you got to get into some of that because there's also a chance, brother, that it may not be affecting you. It may be other things that have been layered over that. There's no way of showing in a concrete way how our past traumas are affecting us. But what I would ask you, Shem, is what are some of your attachments like? Like when you say attachment theory, what's your attachment theory? Like how do you feel about people in your life? How do you attach to people? If you're more unemotional, if you struggle with empathy, if you struggle with caring about people, then it's possible that is still affecting you. But whether it's still affecting you or not, brother, it's not a death sentence, meaning it's not a terminal thing. You can work on it by learning new ways of attaching to people. Maybe you don't value attachment. Maybe people, you can take or leave people. Maybe, I don't know. But you got to look at how that belief that it's affecting you from your past is still affecting you. So what I would recommend for you, man, is if you're in therapy now, make some of this the priority. Talk about this, bring this up. Say, hey, look, and I don't know, maybe you've got other pressing issues, but this is the one you're talking about today. Look into, I don't know if you've studied attachment theory, and maybe you can get into that a little bit more. But whatever happened to you as a baby, it is affecting you to a degree, but what's affecting you more is how you relate to that having affected you, meaning how Shem is now saying, well, that's why I'm the way I am. That's why I can't attach to people really well. So let me see here. How many more questions do we have? Arthur Handy is saying, I believe it's because we live in a culture that values societal functioning over internal wholeness. Absolutely. To me, we are conditioned to be better cogs and more fully human. Absolutely. Well said, brother. Well said. But that doesn't mean we have to stay that way. It doesn't mean we have to be that way. Okay? It does not mean that. So please don't buy into this idea that just because society says this, we have to be that way. So great. I believe it's because we live in a culture. Yeah, you said that. Okay, thank you. Great. People are caring for each other. You're welcome. Thank you, Shem. Thank you. Shem is saying, I'm semi-secure. I think I can go to dissociation, but rarely versus all the time. After 25 years of therapy, on and off, high empathy, great as an adult. Great. Circumstances. Okay. So Shem, it sounds like you're on a good path here because you're actually working on these issues. You're actually working on what is within you that is causing you to feel this way. So again, just to close out for the night, just getting back to the topic. Okay. Thank you again. Please share this if you enjoy these talks. I'm on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 9 p.m. Mountain Time. Let's just close out for the night with empathy. We need to care, not caring. If you're identifying that you don't care too much about other people, you've got to work on that, people. You've got to look at that like a cancer. You've got to look at that as something that needs work. You cannot disregard that as, oh, well, whatever. Caring about people, you've got to look like Shem is talking about. You've got to look at the etiology of it, meaning where did it come from? You've got to spend some time like an investigator, like, why don't I care about people? I mean, what's going on with that? That's not the kind of world I want to live in. I don't want to be part of what's going on. Look at what's happening politically in our country. Republicans, conservatives, liberals, Democrats. Nobody's caring for each other. Nobody on the left is saying to the right, well, why do you like Trump? Why do you feel a connection to him? What's going on? Like, do you feel like you're losing your white identity, or do you feel, and on the right, no one is saying, well, why do you care so much about healthcare? And why is it so important to you to have social program? We need to engage with people. Okay, Pete, great, man. I'm glad it helped. You're welcome. Clara's saying good night. Thank you, Clara. Yeah, I'm going to be signing off here too. But we need to engage. We need to feel for each other more. This idea that not giving an F is healthy, I'm telling you, okay, if I was a cardiologist and I'm on here saying, look, if you got a feedback, you can't walk upstairs, you can't breathe, your heart's pounding, all of these things are happening to you. You got to work on that. As a psychologist, if it's hard for you to care about other people, you've got to find out why. You're welcome, Pam. I appreciate you being here too. Please share this, everybody. If you like these, I'm going to keep doing them as long as people are logging on. Okay. The minute it's just me talking all night, I'm not doing that. So, because I do care. Sometimes I care too much and I've got to reel that in. But the fact that you care is something you should celebrate. You should be proud of that. Now, granted, a lot of times we don't care because we're hurt, but that should not stop you from caring. Because if you allow that to stop you from caring, you're letting the pain win. You're letting the emotional wounds win. And the more you let those emotional wounds control you, the more you're going to feel beaten down. So to close out here about empathy, remember, empathy is not agreeing with the person, okay? Empathy is trying to feel for the person, trying to make the person feel that you're trying to feel for them. Reflect back to them what you heard. But the main thing is, it's got to start from within you. If you don't care about people, you got to get into why. You got to figure that out, okay? You got to look at it like it's something that you need to work on. It should be a wake-up call. Great, Janie. Thank you. I know you care. You got to start caring about Janie, because a lot of times when we're not caring about other people, it's because we're not caring about ourselves, people. Our relationship with ourselves sucks. And if your relationship with yourself sucks, you need to work on that, because that's what's being projected outward. So Arthur's saying, thank you for the good work you're doing. Thanks, brother. The fact that you can appreciate it means you can, I hope you can see the good work you're doing in yourself. I hope you're able to say to Arthur, thanks, man. I appreciate the good work you're doing. We've got to develop more and more of a time to be into why we are the way we are. Shem, you're welcome, my brother. Please tune in again, Shem. You're new. Share this. Let people know about it, because this is about trying to help each other. Pete's saying about Jesus, great. Religion has its place. God, you guys know how I feel about that. Your primary relationship, your primary faith, your primary devotion should be your relationship with yourself. Not trying to alienate Pete, but my point is, if I hate myself, I'm not going to have a very good relationship with God. So yes, absolutely. Religion has its place. God has its place. Spirituality. So in closing, look at developing empathy like developing a muscle, developing your bank account, developing your relationship with other people. Empathy is a vital component of our society. Not caring is not healthy. Not only is not caring not healthy, not caring is dangerous. And I've said this before. I've worked in prisons. I've worked in places where somebody's chained to the desk, and I'm like, God damn, I'm glad that guy's chained to the desk. People who don't care can do heinous things, okay? People who don't care will pick up an AR-15 and mow people down because they don't care. Keep working on your empathy. If you see deficits in your ability to care about other people, work on it. I'm not talking about, oh, kumbaya, and let's hold each other and just, I'm not talking about that. If you want to be cared about, then you've got to figure out why it's hard for you to care about other people. If you don't want to be cared about, then seriously, people, you need to look at that. You need to look at, why don't I care about being loved? What is going on with me? Okay? So thank you for tuning in. I hope everyone has a good weekend. Feel free to send me private messages. Feel free to engage with me. I try to do whatever I can. This is my way of helping the body of humanity. You know, I was working in a prison once, and I was heading up their mental health department, and I said to my staff, you know, we can't just look at treating the inmates as inmates. We have to look at what we do as helping society as a whole. Apparently that didn't go over too well with them. I don't know why, but that's exactly how I look at helping people. I'm not just helping the person. It's a collection of bodies, of minds, of souls. And we need to have that connection to people. We need to allow not only individualism to reign in our minds, but collectivism. And if we don't care about somebody, you got to look at that. Okay? You've got to look at that. I don't know what you mean by OMG, Janie, but you can send me a message later. But you've got to look at why it's important or why you don't care about people. Okay? We seem to, sorry, I'm ranting here, but we seem to prioritize things like, stuff and materialism and buying stuff. And we don't prioritize things like, why am I the way I am? Why don't I care? Why? That should be a concern to you. If you identify that you don't care about people, you can't hate yourself about that, but you need to look at that like, why? Why don't I care? That should be as like important to you as, oh my God, I can't, my pulse is racing, or I have night sweats, or I have pains in my stomach. You got to deal with your emotional and psychological issues with the same intensity and fervence, as, if that's a word, but you know what I mean. But you got to deal with it as though it is a physical thing within you. Okay? So that's the talk about empathy. Empathy is a critical part of mental health. Critical. Not caring is not healthy. That is the opposite of where we should be going as a culture. We should be moving into a culture where we're like have classes for kids on empathy. We should be like have empathy walk-in centers where, oh, really, I don't really care too much about people. I got to work on that. What's going on? We should be concerned about that because we are moving. I'm telling you, as a mental health person, we are moving towards dangerous ground of not caring about each other. And it worries me. So let's do that. Okay, people, let's start with caring about ourselves. Let's look at our mental illness as okay. Let's look at it as a spectrum, but let's work on it because we cannot continue moving towards a culture where we don't care about each other. If you care about people, but you suppress that, stop doing that. Celebrate that. I'm telling you, as a licensed mental health person over 20 years, that is healthy. It's unhealthy to not care about people. If you're proud about being unhealthy, well, you should be like, what the blank is that? Why am I proud that I don't care about people? This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. We need to pump the brakes as a culture and step back and be like, we're celebrating not caring? We're celebrating selfishness? We're celebrating the idea that if it doesn't affect me, I don't care about it? That is way the wrong. I'm like the dude on the tracks, like, wrong way. Okay? So thank you for tuning in. Please share this. Please celebrate your empathy. Please celebrate the fact that you care about people and keep working on your relationship with yourself. Keep working on your relationship with you because that usually our ability or inability to be empathetic is a projection outward. Okay? So thank you for tuning in, everybody. Again, please share this. I'll see you guys on Monday, and we'll pick it up from there, okay? Send me private messages. Have a great weekend, and talk to you soon. Take care.